Hello there. It appears that the machinery is being put in place to get a Brexit trade deal ratified before Christmas. Firstly, please subscribe and like this video to give my channel a boost, and I'm always uploading new content, so please do check back daily, and a big thanks to my Patreon and PayPal supporters. It was emerging last night that Westminster was abuzz with rumour that a Brexit trade deal with the EU was in the offing. It was reported that both Brexiteer and the more pro-EU leaning Tory MPs were looking at this rather favourably. It was further reported that the Prime Minister Boris Johnson had called the Tory Brexiteer European Research Group in for a meeting to tell them that any deal he struck would also meet with their approval, and that if he didn't think it would, then we would still be ending up the Brexit implementation period without a deal. Never fear, folks, we will vindicate the people in full or else. As I have said many times, we will start the new year on WTO terms, Boris reportedly told them. And that's something that will get the Eurocrats rather worried. While from the other side we had the President of the EU Commission briefing MEPs in the EU Parliament that her dedicated chief negotiator Michel Barnier and his team had worked day and night to strike a deal with the UK. But she also said, "As things stand, I cannot tell you whether there will be a deal or not, but I can tell you that there is a path to an agreement now. The path may be very narrow, but it is there. And it is therefore our responsibility to continue trying." So pointing towards the possibility of a deal. And all evening and overnight, stories have been dripping out that Boris has given in on this area and that area, and that we are getting closer and closer to the landing zone for a deal. But some of this has been met with a rebuttal from Number 10, saying that we are still far apart on some issues and that a no-deal exit is still a strong possibility. And a Downing Street source said, "It's entirely provisional. If there's a deal, then MPs would have to vote on it, but that does not in any way suggest that there's been any movement in the negotiations." However, Parliament is being geared up to remain open beyond tomorrow, when it had been due to rise for Christmas. The scuttlebutt is that MPs and Lords may well be poring over, debating and voting on legislation for the first 3 days next week, so that an Act of Parliament needed could receive royal assent on Christmas Eve. And if not, they'll have Christmas Day off and reconvene on Boxing Day. The cynical out there would say, now isn't that a great way to bounce us all with a terrible deal? And that is one of the Brexiteer nightmare scenarios. We are therefore relying on Boris's reassurances to his Brexiteer MPs that they will not be disappointed with the outcome. But the one stumbling block on Ursula's narrow road to a deal still seems to be the issue of fishing. Which is quite funny really, when you look back and recall that the EU had initially insisted on EU fishing rights in UK waters being agreed on before we even started looking at anything else. The UK negotiators under Lord David Frost managed to turn that completely on its head. And then the UK side sat back and played the EU at their own waiting game, until in the end Brussels was forced to start writing up legal texts on all the issues that had either been or were about to be agreed. But they still seem to have come up a bit short on the subjects of agreeing on the level playing field and governance of the final deal. One other issue that came up is the subject of the Erasmus University programme. The EU wanted the UK to commit to it in 7-year lumps, presumably to fit in with their budget cycle, whereas the UK wanted a more pick-and-mix approach. But after a quick look at the international university rankings, my immediate question was, why is the EU putting at risk access for the Erasmus programme to the world's best universities? Now, it seems to me that a lot of the talk about Boris easing his red lines has come from the EU side. For example, The Guardian reported last night that Downing Street has watered down a key demand over post-Brexit fishing rights as part of a broader compromise, EU sources said, as Germany's ambassador in Brussels said there was a chance of a deal by the weekend. This appears to be a tactic to try and undermine their opposition in London, as well as signalling to the UK public how far they need Boris to stray from his red lines to seal the deal. That way they might be able to get pro-EU types in the UK to put pressure on Tory MPs and ministers to get Boris to actually do the easing required. But what is it with the EU and trade deals? You'd think they don't really want to do them. Which for a so-called trading bloc is a bit strange, isn't it? Just look at the EU-Mercosur trade deal that it took the EU 20 years to agree with Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay. It came with a great deal of fanfare, promptly fizzled out, and it's still not ratified as far as I'm aware. In contrast, we have the UK International Trade Secretary Liz Truss and her team signing deals up left, right and Chelsea. And in a tweet yesterday she said, "Our trade deal with Mexico means we have now secured agreements with 58 countries. It's our 7th deal with a member of CPTPP, an agreement of 11 Pacific nations covering almost £9 trillion worth of trade. I look forward to the UK applying early next year to join CPTPP." The CPTPP being the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, currently between Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore and Vietnam. And the UK has already outlined its strategy for achieving this earlier in the year, saying, "The UK intends to pursue accession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership as a key part of our trade negotiations programme." And it gave the 3 main reasons for doing so, as well as saying, "CPTPP membership is an important part of our strategy to place the UK at the centre of a modern, progressive network of free trade agreements with dynamic economies. In doing so, we aim to turn the UK into a global hub for businesses and investors wanting to trade with the rest of the world." Now, the detractors will claim that these are just EU agreements rolled over. Mostly that may be true, but it's those same detractors who have told us over the preceding years that it would be impossible for us to make those trade deals in the first place. But further, as I understand it, these deals include agreements to go back to evaluate them as time goes on, really important for a fast-moving country in a fast-moving world. Compare that to Brussels that insists on the most stifling processes within its fortress EU. The two to me appear to be mutually exclusive, borne out by the fact that the EU isn't part of the CPTPP. With the reason being that the EU would probably insist on the CPTPP signing up as part of the EU, under ECJ jurisdiction of course. Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it by following the link in the descriptions box below and support me on Patreon or PayPal. So what do you think about all of this? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.